intern here in Alpharetta, and I'll jump right in. Yeah, just an agenda quickly. I'll talk about myself first, and then my project's responsibilities and duties here as an intern, some of the activities and things I've done here in Atlanta, some key learnings, key takeaways from my time here. Special thanks, I'll call some of you out, and then a Q&A session at the end, so if you have any questions, please hold them for the end. So first off, about myself, I'm from Frank Ewing, Tennessee. Has anyone heard of it? Nope, that's right, no one has. A population of around 30 people. That's not a joke. No neighbors. Like I said, I'm the logistics intern. I'm currently a senior at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. Go Vols. I'm actually a dual major in supply chain management and sport management. Interesting fact there, I've already completed my sport management degree, but kind of had a career shift into supply chain, so it's all supply chain from here on out. And like I said, I'll graduate in May. I actually only have 10 credit hours left, so I'm right there at the end. Here's some of my favorite things: family, friends, sports. I'm a big music fan, hip hop and rap, and workouts and my dog. That's my dog Rory. She's a 2-year-old German pup. And then here's some of my favorite things. Up in the top left, that was me and my friends in Neyland when we beat Florida for the first time in 12 years. So we're pretty excited. We didn't get much of that this year, but oh well. That's my dog Rory. Next to that, I want to show that picture because she's quite the interesting character. She actually goes belly up and pouts whenever you tell her no, or that we can't go outside and play. So that's what she does. That's me and my girlfriend Morgan of nearly 3 years of career fair, and then here in front of the Mercedes-Benz Dome for the Vols opener. Do we have any Tech fans in here? Just Matt? Thank you. Turns out the only Power 5 victory we had all year. Pretty good football season. In the bottom right, I actually grew up on a horse farm of about 50 horses or so, so I was on a horse before I could walk, so kind of a big part of my life. So on to my duties here as an intern. I'll just touch on a few. JV billing is a big thing I do. Joint venture billing, helping out the export team, sending out invoices internationally. Target scorecard, compiling key metrics and key finds into a scorecard, and then leading a weekly discussion with the target team, and developing action plans based on how those discussions go. But the two I want to talk about, kind of my special projects, the OTD project, which stands for on-time delivery. And under that, that's just kind of a bunch of mini projects that I worked on with transportation. And then my case pick project, which I worked on with Gene Evans and DC Ops, focusing on case pick volume as opposed to layer and pallet. So first, the OTD project. These are the two kind of the mini projects that I was talking about that I want to mention for this presentation. First, the OTD scenario builder. So with this, I just developed an Excel database of various different on-time delivery scenarios. So I took an individual week and then made minor adjustments, just changing the late orders really, to see which scenario worked best for us to help us reach our goal of 90.5% and to support our customer segmentation goals. So to see where each customer segment should be and a more realistic view for their goals of on-time delivery. And then I'll get into EDI coding issues. This is kind of a separate project focusing on carrier compliance. This is where we have an issue with late shipments where a carrier uses no late shipment code or an incorrect code or a non-Clorox code. And my focus on this project was we actually send out a report to get them to update these shipments and these codes, but they don't. So my focus is to get them to comply, to get them to respond to us. But first, the on-time delivery scenario builder. So first, I pulled data from Hyperion for our on-time delivery reporting into Excel, and this is what it looks like. And I've developed different scenarios, just kind of toyed with it, developed dozens of different scenarios by simply adjusting the late orders to adjust order on time. And this was just seeing how each customer affected the total, and then each customer segment, so fuel strategic growth versus managed growth and maximize profit, affected the overall on-time delivery. And like I said, to develop different scenarios to find the best fit, the best one to help us reach our on-time delivery goal, which we've been quite a bit off recently. And so in another tab I created, this is actually our on-time delivery report template, so kind of mirrored it, and then referenced these cells to the Hyperion data where I was toying with the different on-time delivery percentages at the customer level. So this is kind of one that we kind of was the best view, scenario number 6. And as you can see, we kind of focused on our highest volume customers first. So Target and Costco, you see there at 95%. And then top 10, which is really top 9 without Walmart, at 92%. So this is kind of to, like I said, set new goals potentially and to make more realistic goals for the different customer segments. And to ultimately get to our on-time delivery percentage goal of 90.5%. So this is taking the individual actual week, and then making these adjustments, creating this scenario with the new goals, and to get us to our new goal, which this scenario actually does. Next, I'm going to talk about EDI coding issues. So like I said, when there's a late shipment, there has to be an EDI code to identify why the shipment was late. And there was an issue with carriers using no late reason code at all, so NA or NS for normal appointment or normal status. And that would identify that the shipment was actually on time, but these shipments were actually late. And when they use an incorrect code in general and then just enter a wrong date or a failure to communicate that they'd made a date change. And then sometimes they'll even use a non-Clorox code because there's different codes for different customers. And coding errors lead to shipments falling in the wrong failure bucket. So that's kind of the big issue, or why this was such an issue. So every time there was no late reason code at all, and the shipment actually fell into the carrier failure bucket. So you would think the carriers would want to update those so it wouldn't be counted against them. And then also some shipments being counted late in error. This is when maybe they just entered the wrong date, or there was a date change and it wasn't communicated between the customer, carrier, and Clorox. So it led an on-time delivery to being a late shipment. So like I said, we actually have a report, the late reason code audit report, where we send these out to the carriers with all of the shipments with these EDI coding issues so they can update them. But they weren't responding we sent it out via email, but they weren't complying or updating the shipments. So my goal was to get them to comply. So what I did is I set up a follow-up procedure, or a follow-up procedure, and this was simply carrier calls. Call them after they hadn't responded to the initial report, and to get them to look at the report. So this turned into about 5 to 15 calls a day, which I'm still doing now, about an hour every day. And it started out just to give them a call because they weren't even looking at the report. So to get them to open up the report, and they knew I was calling, so they would oftentimes, they started to look at the report before I would call them so that I wouldn't have to call them anymore. But this led to an education process. We've seen a bunch of improvement. Several of the carriers had no clue of the process to use at all, or the correct codes to use. So educating them and helping them along the way, so eventually I didn't have to call them. And to drive change. And this was to get the carriers and the ones that handled the EDI codes to place more importance on getting these codes correct, which we did see. And some results from this project was improved carrier compliance, obviously. With the phone calls, I just thought was an easier way, a better way to get them to respond as opposed to email, which is a lot easier to ignore. Once you get on the phone, it's a lot harder to ignore me. And this led to more accurate data for our reports and more accurate view of failures, Clorox versus carrier driven. So we got a better understanding of why shipments were late, because before we were getting codes that were wrong, so we didn't know whose fault it was. So we had wrong data. And so this improved our data integrity and the data for our reports. And this has actually led to a potential increase of 1 to 1.5% on-time delivery. And this comes specifically from where there were date errors, or there was a date change and it wasn't communicating correctly. Because a lot of those shipments were on time, but the date in the system being wrong led to it appearing as a late shipment. So getting those moved back to on-time shipments led to a positive impact on on-time delivery. Next, I want to talk about my case pick project with DC Ops. So a little bit of background here. In DCs, there's 3 types of picks. There's pallet pick, there's layer pick, and there's loose pick. Loose pick being individual cases. So in terms of picking costs, the cost to pick, there's no incremental cost to ship a pallet. So there's no cost to pick a pallet. So from Clorox's perspective, we would prefer everyone to order in full pallets because it's cheaper for us to serve them based on picking costs. But there are incremental costs to layer pick and to loose pick due to labor, time, and equipment. And these are some of those upcharges. The additional cost associated, 7 cents per case upcharge to layer pick, and then 18 cents per case upcharge to loose pick. So loose pick is by far the most expensive in terms of picking costs. So this is a cost savings project. We've seen that our cost to serve our customers has increased rather dramatically. So we wanted to reduce loose pick was the big problem, and to identify what was going on. So that led to this graph. So this is Clorox total case movement in our distribution centers. So in the green line is percentage of total cases moving in layer. And then in orange is the percentage of total cases being loose picked. So as you can see, we've seen a huge increase and a bad trend in loose picks actually overtaking layer pick. So the cost to serve our customers has increased because of this. So my focus on this project was on the ordering profiles and kind of identifying our worst offenders in terms of loose pick volume. So developing these ordering profiles and to identify how many loose picks that they are getting. So in the top left, this is a table, their ordering profile. So generally we have a rule, it's 80-10-10. Pallet cases usually move 80% in pallet, 10% in layer, and 10% in loose. So, and then here's Target's ordering profile specifically, and as you can see, Target's, they have 55% of total cases moving in pallet, 15% or so moving in layer, and then nearly 30% moving in loose. So obviously the cost to serve them based on these picking costs is quite a bit more. And that's illustrated by this chart down here. So Target on the left with nearly 7 cents per case to serve for picking costs alone, compared to all other Clorox customers, which is less than 3 cents per case. And as you can see, most of this comes from in the blue, loose picks. So I wanted to develop this in a meaningful way to show our customer teams and to ultimately drive change. So the best way to do that I found was to relate it to dollar amounts and the additional costs. So as you can see in the green table, this is what this amounts to across fiscal years. And this is the additional cost to serve Target compared to other Clorox customers based on their ordering profile, and specifically the nearly 30% of their total cases being loose pick. As you can see, nearly $400,000 a year additional cost, and then nearly more than $1 million additional cost to serve Target compared to everyone else. So from that, we went and showed several customer teams their ordering profile to ultimately kind of hand this off to let them drive changes to identify what was going on. So here's some of the interesting things we found with Target specifically. During item setup in Target's system, it defaults to the case pack, so to the individual cases, and it stays that way for ordering. So it doesn't take into account how many cases are in a pallet or in a layer. And it requires manual action to change. So a simple solution now that they're looking into is to add a step to this process to check the pallet configuration. So to identify how many cases are in a pallet, I'm going to take that into account when they're ordering. But some solutions for the project kind of as a whole, and these are based on the talks we had with customer teams. Pallet and layer requirements. I understand we do this with some of our customers, but kind of some of our bigger fish we let kind of handle it their own way. And this would be to require them to order a certain amount of cases to move in pallets. So to set a requirement at nearly 70% or so to make sure that the cases are moving in pallet or layer. And another thing would be a system check integration to ensure that all items, pallet and layer quantities are correct in the customer system. So this is something we've seen in the past where there's been a mistake in the pallet configuration in a customer's system. So they would think they were ordering a full pallet when in reality they were ordering a full pallet in 2 cases. So this would be a simple fix to across all our customers to match up the pallet configurations to ensure that we're not making those mistakes. Okay, on to some of the things here I've done as an intern and volunteer work. Really eye-opening to me was the plant tours, which most everyone's kind of hit on. That's really interesting to me, kind of when I got into supply chain. I like to think of when you put on your logistics goggles, when you're in a Walmart or something, you see something on the shelf, and you start to wonder how it got there, all the way from raw material to the shelf. So these plant tours, where we went to Forest Park and got to see the bottles made and everything, and then the Fairburn RDC, where we got to see the distribution center. That was very interesting to kind of really get a realistic view with those logistics goggles. Another thing, Carla just mentioned the Junior Achievement volunteer work, and then the summer lunch program where we packed lunches for underprivileged kids in the summer. That was a great opportunity. And then the Strengths Finder session was one of my favorites, where we identify our strengths, and it's more about focusing on your strengths than on your weaknesses. So some key takeaways, just in general from my time here. I wanted to focus on the first one, buy-in. That's kind of something I've learned here since working for Clorox. We work for a great company that offers great products and really tries to help the world. And with our mission, we make everyday life better every day. If you really buy into your company, buy into their products, buy into your role and what you're trying to do, your work will really improve and you'll actually enjoy your work much more. Another one was effective collaboration. I wanted to hit on because that's kind of one of my biggest learning curves from school was the difference in how you interact with people to be successful, and to do it in a professional manner is something I've learned here, and how to effectively collaborate to work on your projects and to get the job done. Special thanks to everyone at Clorox. This really has been the opportunity of a lifetime. My professional development has gone, from here to around here. Great opportunity. I did want to call out a couple people. Anita Polk, my manager, best manager in the world. She's always got my back. And the export team, I know John Howland's here. You guys are like a family. You really welcomed me in from day one. I love working. That's kind of where my little desk is. So thank you guys. Really kind of embody what Clorox is all about. And yeah, I left out everyone else, but everyone, thank you so much. I love Clorox, and thanks just for the opportunity. And now I'll open up the floor for any questions.